At the time of recording this video, Borderlands 4 has 3 major world events. Now, for this ranking, we're not going to be including stuff like the Ordnite processor or the Rift bubbles, because to me, they don't really fit the mold of what these are supposed to be. And as such, today we'll be ranking all of the 3 major events in Borderlands 4 from worst to best. I also put a poll up on Twitter asking for your thoughts on what the best to worst world events were in Borderlands 4, and I'll be showing those off at the end of the video when I'm done with my rankings. We're going to try to find good things and bad things about all of them, and I'd encourage you guys, as I'm speaking about each one, to give me your thoughts on each one in the comment section down below. I do read every comment, so it will be interesting for sure. And with that, let's get started by talking about what I think is the worst of the 3 world events in Borderlands 4, with the Creep Impact event from Carcadia Burn. The whole point of this world event is that meteors are crashing into Carcadia and you need to power up a gun to destroy them. It's a very simple concept, and there are numerous rounds of this going up to the Platinum Reward category, as there is with all of the world events, but the Creep Impact event is interesting in particular because it only features one core mechanic that just repeats over and over and over again. As you'll see with the world events we talk about coming up, they always have something that is changing about them as it goes on, no matter how big or small, but the Creep Impact event really just doesn't. It's the same thing over and over and over again for the duration of the event, and I will say that as we're ranking these, I want to go over positives and negatives about each event because I think that's important when you're looking at something. And so I'll tell you that the positive of the Creep Impact event, which I really like, is that there's a custom enemy called the Ore Creep, and it's literally a creep with a big bundle of ore on its back that will explode when it dies, giving you a ton of ore. This is good because you're supposed to use this ore to power up the gun to destroy the meteors, so it's kind of the central mechanic, and this enemy ties directly into it, and I really like it. Every time one shows up, there is a tiny dopamine hit, and I think it does pay off as the developers hopefully intended. The reason why the Creep Impact event is last place, however, is because of one key flaw. I am an Aimman player, and as such I use ordnance a lot, and that ordnance is two-handed, which means in order to pick something up, I need to put my ordnance away a lot of the time. Well, that's a problem for the Creep Impact event because the ore that drops has to be either picked up into your hand or grappled to be put into the machine. Now you might be asking, Frogman, why is this a problem? Why don't you just kill all of the enemies and then put your ordnance away and then pick up all the ore and put it in the machine? Well, this is where the critical failure of this event comes in, and it's what got it into last place. Number one, sometimes when you grapple, you'll end up just meleeing instead and not completing the grapple, which is a really big bad disconnect, and it kind of just breaks the immersion of what you're doing. And also the biggest flaw is that this ore on the ground has like a 10-second timer before it despawns. So the aforementioned ore creeps, they drop 3 pieces of ore, and there is actually some times where I would kill them, the ore would drop, and what I just mentioned about the grapple sometimes not working, that would happen, and the 3 pieces it dropped, I'd only be able to get like 1 or 2 of them. So you can quickly see what my big issue is with this world event. There is just times where completing it is so drawn out and boring because I can't get the ore into the machine because it keeps despawning, and it's not one of those things where it's frustrating in a skill way. It's frustrating because I physically don't have enough time because sometimes the grapple's just bugging out. I'll make a pattern of suggesting an improvement with each of the world events, starting with the Creep event, and what I'm going to suggest here is that they simply remove the despawn timer on the pieces of ore. Now I understand that cleanup is important in game dev, and it's probably why they're doing that here, so I would suggest that at the end of each round, as you go from silver to gold to platinum and so on and so forth, that they just despawn the ore then. I don't think leaving it on the ground up until that moment is such a big deal. If they don't want to do that, at the very least increase the despawn timer to something around 30 seconds. But with that, the Creep Impact event comes in at my number 3 spot. Now as we move on here, obviously there's only 2 more major world events to talk about, so it's going to be pretty self-explanatory what is at number 1, so I wish there was a way to preserve that surprise for you, but regardless, my number 2 spot is the Airship world event in the Fade Fields. So this is interesting because I know that for some people this is their favorite world event, and I actually think in terms of overall scale, the Fade Fields Airship World event is probably the best of the three. It has a scale of grandeur that doesn't really get matched by anything other than maybe the Creep event, but I still think that falls short. And I do think that with friends, the Airship World event is just the most, I'd say, Destiny-esque feeling event that we're going to talk about. It feels like a really big deal. It does feel like an event that is affecting the world, as the name World event would give off. And when you get into the actual gameplay of the Airship event, this is where I want to get to my compliments of it. So what does the overall gameplay model of the Airship event look like? Well, it's as simple as this. When the event starts, an airship will arrive. It will be the first of 4 airships. You'll go up inside there for a unique layout, and there will also be hidden secrets in there, like secret chests that you can unlock. Your goal is to cause as much damage as you can to the airship, but you can also do this just by killing enemies, and you'll be on a timer when you're doing this. When the timer runs out, a detonation sequence will occur, and if you're not out of the airship, you will die. As you wait for the next airship to arrive, you'll have to kill ads in the surrounding area below, which I think is a really great way of passing the time as you wait for more action to occur. And what's really nice about this, and something that I want to compliment the devs for here, is that this stuff actually counts towards the overall progress. So even when the airships aren't present, you have an opportunity to catch up by killing the surrounding enemies, and it's a really nice way to bridge that gap. Each arriving airship from here on out will give you the opportunity, obviously, to go up in reward tier, and will have a different internal layout. There will also be new secret chests that you can get to as well, which is a nice touch. Now, as for my complaints about the airship event and why it lands itself into the number 2 spot, is that sadly, for all of the secret chests in the airship, it never feels like it's ever beneficial to you to unlock them, because very rarely do they actually give you anything, because they're just normal chests that have been slapped into this world event. It's not a unique blueprint interactable that is going to have a unique item pool of things to get, or even something with a boosted chance for legendaries, and that leaves a lot to be desired. On top of this, when you finally do beat the event and the airship gets destroyed, it will start raining down loot from above. However, the problem with this, and something which I'm sure a lot of players don't actually know, is that most of this loot can and will end up landing on top of a nearby roof that doesn't seem to have any clear path to get on top of, nor does it seem intended that this is happening to begin with. I attribute a lot of the flaws in these world events to the fact that up until 2 weeks ago, it just was barely possible to get them to naturally occur in your world. In fact, for me, I had never seen the Creep Impact event for over 650 hours in the game until they made the change that they did to them. And as such, now that they are playable, we're seeing a lot of the teething issues that we previously weren't, because that wider scale testing is now happening as we get our hands on them. That's why, something I forgot to mention about the Creep event, is that the rewards even at Platinum are unbelievably underwhelming, and the same thing is going to happen here with the Airship event. Even though this loot lands on a nearby rooftop, there's no reason to go up and grab it, because the chances of you actually getting anything above a purple from this is slim to none. The reward tier from this event is not worth your time, and that's a very big problem. Ultimately, what Gearbox needs to do for these events is make them end game level difficulty, and something that you shouldn't be doing during your playthrough, because if I am beating the Airship event on Platinum, I want it to rain legendaries, because the difficulty of doing so should be astronomical. But with the Airship event out of the way, let's go into my number 1 pick, which is fairly obvious what this is going to be. It's the Terminus range Goredello world event. The most classic Borderlands gameplay reminiscent one of the 3, funnily enough, is my most favorite, despite it not being the most imaginative. Now, how does that work exactly? You'll start off the Goredello Murder Festival by meeting up with a guy named Harold, and actually what's cool about this event is that it has ties into your favorite bartender Moxie. If you've ever played a Circle of Slaughter in the Borderlands franchise, that's what the Goredello event is. You can complete optional objectives to earn yourself more time to get to the max tier reward, but a lot of the time you just simply don't need to. However, doing all of these optionals will unlock a final cage of 6 chests at the end of the Goredello event, but if you've been paying attention so far, you guessed it, they're not going to give you anything special. But I simply put like the Goredello event because of how quick and fast it can go, and also because in my opinion it has the most potential of the 3. You can take the concept of the Goredello event and apply it in literally any future extra DLC for Borderlands 4, just changing up the enemy types or changing up the setting, and so long as it's actually difficult and rewarding to you, it is something which I can see them copy pasting for easy endgame content. Something like the Creep Impact event or the Airship event I feel like are more uniquely tailored to their area and it may be a little harder to replicate, but the Goredello just isn't one of those for me. While I do think that the overall scale, like I mentioned earlier, of the Airship event is more impressive than the Goredello, and certainly if you said to me that your favorite was the Airship compared to Goredello, then I would not have a problem with that. But I do see a lot of potential in Goredello, and also I did like that they introduced a unique character like Harold in such an interesting way. It was oddly reminiscent of Kilovolt in Electra City. And while there was also a new character introduced with the Creep Impact event, they didn't leave quite the same mark on me as a character like Harold did, even though he isn't the best character by any means. And to round up my thoughts here, again, why is Goredello my favorite? Because when it comes to talking about the negatives, there aren't many. My only real big complaint with the Goredello event is that they just aren't doing enough with it. I do want to see it be more difficult. I do want to see the loot be even better and more worthwhile. And the arena I would like to see a little larger. Basically what I'm saying is just pull the trigger and bring back the Slaughter Shaft. Even though the Circle of Slaughter gameplay doesn't entirely do it for me in a Borderlands game, it doesn't mean it should be omitted entirely. And as such, that's why the Goredello is sitting at my #1 spot. So that's going to do it for my ranking, but before we end off the video, let's talk about what you guys thought when I asked you on Twitter. I was actually interested to see what you guys thought, and I was shocked when I actually see the results for the first time and noticed that you guys agreed completely with my ranking. You also have the Goredello as your favorite, with the Airship behind and the Creep Impact in 3rd place. But of course the YouTube audience is different to the Twitter audience, so you guys let me know if they're tripping in the comment section down below and give me your top 3, and I also do want to see you apply the same template I did. What do you like about these events and what don't you like? I'm very, very curious to hear your thoughts. And with that out of the way, thank you guys so much for watching this video. I hope you guys enjoyed. Be sure to leave a like on it because it does help a lot in the YouTube algorithm, and thank you guys so much for tuning in. As always, I'll check you in the next one.